Good afternoon, Crosspoint family. So, I decided I'd make a little video explaining the discipleship roster that some of you may have seen around the building. I put a few copies up, so you might see it there, wondering, what is this thing? Are we supposed to sign up? What's it even mean? I thought I'd just make a video explaining what that's all about. So, what does it mean to disciple someone? Well, if you're from the TBC side of the merger, you know I've talked a bit about that, and if you're from the Mosaic side, maybe it's a little bit more fuzzy. So let me just explain briefly what it means to disciple someone. First of all, I'll say this. Jesus made it his final command, go and disciple all the people groups, or all the nations, it's translated. And that word that he used, go and disciple, or sometimes it's translated make disciples, it was a Greek word, mathetevo. And the key thing I want to share is it was an extremely rare word that Jesus used. There were a lot more common words out there, like the general word for teach, go and teach people, didasko. Didasko, for instance, if you just did a word search in the classical period online for the word didasko, teach, you'd get like 3,000 hits. Well, if you do a word search for the verb to disciple someone, mathetevo, you would get about 20 hits. It was an extremely rare word. The natural question this raises is, why would Jesus use such an extremely rare word and tell us to go and do this for people? And we're going to get to that, but first, let's unpack what it means. So discipling people, somebody else, is one of about a dozen Christian practices that helps people grow stronger and more mature. I've got a screenshot I'll pull up. It kind of shows this reality. Okay, as you see here, I've got about a dozen Christian practices, activities, verbs that we're told to do, Christian actions, and then you'll see the end goal is spiritual maturity. We want to help people grow stronger in their relationship with God. And you know a lot of these activities, singing and worship, that's making music with your voice, prayer, talking to God, teaching. You guys know what these urging people are, admonishing. And we got discipling. And we got the practice of communion. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Evangelism, sharing the gospel with other people. The good news, you'll probably know what that is. Fellowship, sharing life together, sharing our life as a church with each other. Being cared for by a pastor or shepherd. Encouraging each other, you know what that is. And love, you know what that is. So let's go back to this maybe fuzzy one. What does it mean to disciple somebody else? Well, unlike all the other practices, you only get to be discipled once. And it's a temporary relationship that you have with a more mature Christian. So what does it actually mean to disciple somebody else? The good thing is it's extremely simple. You don't need a college education to understand what it means to disciple somebody or to start doing it. So discipling somebody involves teaching them while sharing life with them. You might be wondering, okay, well, what are we supposed to teach them? And then what does it mean to share life with somebody? What do you actually mean when you say that? What might that look like? All right, let's start with teaching them. Jesus said, when you disciple a younger believer, teach them to obey everything that I have commanded. Which is very interesting because Jesus was not legalistic. He understood we're not saved by obeying God's commands. We're saved by grace through faith. And he had very strong words for people who try to add commands on top of God's commands, like the Pharisees, and they would load people down with heavy weights. Well, Jesus apparently thinks, though, that there is a healthy way to teach younger believers his commands. Not necessarily the Pharisees' commands, but he says, teach them to obey everything I've commanded. So the teaching side is you teach that younger believer all of the commands Jesus gave for living life. The practical commands and instructions he gave that apply to all of our relationships and activities. So when you pray, he said, go into your room and close your door. Try to keep it as private and discreet as possible. You don't want to make this a big showy thing. Well, that's a command. And it's incredibly practical. I think you'll agree. He said, when you disagree with an older person, don't disagree with them too sharply. That's in 1 Timothy. Let's see, what's another command that he gave? When somebody mistreats you, do this. And so on and so forth. He gave us over a couple hundred practical commands that apply and give guidance to just about any relationship or situation you'll ever be in as a Christian. And so they're incredibly practical. And the thing about a new believer is, especially if they're new to church and they're new to Christianity, when somebody turns their heart and their life over to Christ, opens themselves up, repents of their sins, and believes in Jesus, when they get saved, as we like to say with Christianese language, sometimes we think, okay, I'm just going to bring them to church. They're going to figure this thing out, Sunday by Sunday, sermon by sermon. And apparently Jesus thought that's not enough. They need to have somebody come alongside of them and actually teach them the commands and show them what it looks like. So it's teaching them, and he said, teach them the practical parts, the command. You don't have to teach them all the doctrine. They got Pastor Dave on Sunday. They got their Sunday school teachers. They got other people can teach them doctrine. You might not be a Bible teacher, and that's okay. The great thing is about discipling, he said, just teach them the practical things, and anybody can teach a younger believer the commands that are in the New Testament. In fact, the young adult that I'm discipling right now, we literally just started in Matthew. And when we hit a command, we stop there. And I ask him if he understands what Jesus meant and if he knows how to put that into his life. And if not, we talk a little bit more until he's like, all right, I think I got that one. Then we move on. And we're literally just walking through the teachings of Jesus till we hit commands. And I've got a little index that I actually made and put together that lists all the commands Jesus gave. So if you want to use that, you can. And that's a little cheater method. But we do that. Or you can use a curriculum that emphasizes the practical commands in the New Testament. But yeah, there's nothing fancy about it. He says, teach them to obey the commands and show them what it looks like. They might have questions. What does that look like in 2020? How do you pray? What does it look like when people mistreat you? Like, what do you literally do and say back to them? So that's the teaching side. Not complicated. And then the other side of it is, I think it's fun, and this is the sharing life part. So what does it look like to share your life with somebody? Well, it means just what it sounds like. You take your life and you hook it together to theirs as close as you can for that period. It might be a year, 2 years, 3 years. You take that younger believer into your home, into your life. You spend time with them and just hang out. And in fact, the life of Jesus, if you think about it through the discipleship lens, this is what he was doing with those 12 believers day in and day out. He just ate meals with them, spent time with them, hung out with them. Now, we work 9 to 5 jobs, most of us. And so, you may not be able to actually move in with the person you're discipling or whatever. But, what I'm doing with the young adult I'm discipling is we get together twice a week. And I just picked activities that were already a part of my week, like my workout times and my times hanging out and relaxing and watching anime. I had him pick. I was like, all right, we're going to hang out twice a week. Here's the things I do during my week. Pick a couple times and activities you want to join me for. And he picked a couple. And so we hang out for a couple hours one day a week doing watching anime. And then we hang out another time during the week and actually teach him the commands. So that's what I do. We spend time together twice a week, and there's a teaching part and then just a hangout part. But you can do it differently. The important thing is that you're teaching them the commands in some way, shape, or form, and then that you're actually sharing your life with them, spending time with them. So that's the two parts of discipling somebody: teaching while sharing life with them. So think about what this means, that Jesus would use his final command to tell us to do this, and that he would use this really rare word, disciple them, not just teach them. He doesn't want us to set up Sunday school classes and Bible studies. No, he said go and mathetevo them, which means you got to share life with them, attach your life to them. A little bit less convenient, but apparently Jesus seemed to believe that every new believer needs this, that this will give them a significant boost in their Christian journey right at the beginning. Again, I said it's temporary. It's a year or 2 or 3 at the most. Jesus gave his disciples 3 years. but most of the instances we have in history of Paul discipling people, it would be between 6 months and 2 years that he would spend with them, investing in them. So yeah, apparently Jesus thinks that each new believer would really value from having an older believer give them this kind of boost. So I think, why did Jesus use this kind of a rare word? I think because it's on his heart that we share life with these younger believers and help them along. So do I understand it completely? Well, no. But do I understand it enough to get busy? Yeah, I think so. And hopefully this little video has helped blow away some of the fog in your own mind and made this concept of discipling a younger believer a little less intimidating. You don't have to be a professional. You just have to be willing to open up your life to a younger believer and be willing to teach them the commands. So enter the discipleship roster. So the discipleship roster is just simply meant to help connect you with somebody that needs to be discipled. So if you're the person that wants to be discipled, you can look on the roster and find the names and contact information of people in our church family that have already said, hey, I'm willing and I'm available. And you can call them, reach out to them yourself, and you guys can compare your schedules and see if you've got some time during your week that you guys could set up to be your time to get together. Or maybe you'll compare schedules with them and they'll be like, nah, I don't think it's going to work for the two of us. And then you want to try somebody else on the roster list and reach out to them. So you can do that. Or if you're a person that is available to disciple somebody else, you can go ahead and put your name on the roster and your contact information, and that'll be your way of just making yourself available to some of the younger believers in the church. You know, they'll see your name on the list, they may call you, and then you guys can sit down and figure out if your schedules will work for you to do that for them. So yeah, that's the roster. You can make use of it. Feel free to add your name on it. You don't have to message me for permission, you know. It's several places in the church. I put 2 or 3 of them up. So maybe you want to add your name to all of them, find them, and put your name, your phone number on there. If you're not sure if you're ready for this, or maybe you just have more questions, I want to just give a warm invitation to feel free to set up an appointment to get together with me, or if you want to just do it on a phone call, you can call me anytime, and I'd be happy to answer whatever questions I can, help you find a good match for you. So yeah, okay, that's it. That's the discipleship roster. Happy discipling.